The storm hit O'Hare like the sky had declared war. Rain hammered the glass roof in relentless sheets. Thunder cracked so hard the floor trembled, and every flash of lightning painted the deserted terminal in stark white. In that frozen heartbeat of light, I saw him, a small boy, no older than 7, perched on a row of plastic chairs too big for him. Red backpack clutched to his chest, shoes dripping little puddles. Eyes fixed on the departure board, as if it might whisper his mother's name. He was utterly alone. "My name is Daniel Carter. Flight attendant, red-eye to New York canceled, hotel voucher useless." Nursing a paper cup of cold coffee, while stranded travelers curled into corners or collapsed under thin airline blankets. This child, though he hadn't moved in hours, he sat perfectly still, knees drawn up, whispering to the empty seat beside him, nodding every few seconds as though someone invisible answered back. I should have kept walking. I was off the clock, but the same quiet ache that rises when a passenger is about to brake pulled me across the polished floor. "Hey, little man," I said, crouching so our eyes were level. He looked up, big brown eyes. Wet with tears he refused to let fall, and studied me a long moment before answering in the softest voice. "We're just waiting for someone. Asterisk we single quotes re dot asterisk, not asterisk, I single quotes m dot asterisk." That single word settled in my chest like a stone. I glanced around, no frantic parents, no security, just storm, flickering lights, and this boy who kept saying, "Asterisk we dot asterisk." "What's your name?" I asked. "Luca," he whispered, cracking open the backpack just enough to reveal a worn stuffed bear with one ear flopped over. "This is Bear. He doesn't like thunder." I smiled the way you do when a child hands you their entire universe in one sentence. "Well, Luca, thunder can't get you inside. Want some hot chocolate? The cafe's still open." He hesitated, then nodded. As we stood, a prickle ran down my neck. I looked up. A man in a dark overcoat stood at the far end of the terminal. Tall, motionless, fedora low over his eyes, hands in pockets, simply watching. I shook it off. Airports are full of ghosts at 2 a.m. We walked to the cafe, Luca slipping his cold little hand into mine without asking, fingers sticky with nerves. I ordered 2 hot chocolates. He held his cup with both hands, sipping carefully, leaving a foam mustache that made him look even smaller. "So," I said gently, "who are you waiting for?" He stared into his drink. "Mommy said she'd come before the big hand hits 12, but the clock keeps going and going." His voice cracked. "She said if she's late, stay right here and be brave." I checked my watch. 11:47 p.m. No flights, no taxis, no one coming tonight. "Luca," I said, "sometimes grown-ups get stuck, but you're not alone now. I'll stay with you." His eyes searched mine. "Promise?" "Promise." We returned to his row of chairs. I sat beside him. He leaned into my arm, eyelids drooping, Bear's floppy ear brushing my sleeve. That's when the stare returned stronger. The man in the overcoat was closer now, 20 feet away, tilting his head as though listening to a voice I couldn't hear. I stood. "Stay here, Luca. I'll be right back." I walked toward the stranger. Up close I saw the scar slicing through his left eyebrow, the kind earned in places no one talks about. His suit was expensive but tired, like it had seen too many midnights. "Sir," I said quietly, "are you with the boy?" He looked past me to Luca, then back, in a voice like gravel wrapped in velvet. "He trusts you." A pause. "Why?" "I don't know," I said. "I just offered to help." He studied me. "You ever lose someone, Mr. Carter?" "My badge, of course." "Yes," I said, throat closing. "My sister, 10 years ago. She was supposed to pick me up from this airport. She never made it." He nodded slowly. "Luca's mother won't make it either." He drew a photograph from his coat, a woman with Luca's eyes, lying in a hospital bed, tubes in her arms, a newborn on her chest, timestamp 3 days ago. "She asked me to bring him to his grandmother in New York," he said. "But the storm, and the people looking for me, complicated things." He glanced over his shoulder. "I can't be seen with him. Not tonight." I stared at the photo, then at Luca, now standing, Bear dangling from one hand. "You want me to take him?" He pressed a small envelope into my palm. "Ticket. Instructions. Grandmother's address. Flight leaves at 6 a.m. if the storm clears. Who are you?" I whispered. He gave a faint, sad smile. "Someone who was once a scared kid. And a stranger stayed." He nodded toward Luca. "Gate C17. Quiet corner. I'll make sure no one bothers you." Then he turned and walked away, coat swirling, vanishing into the shadows like smoke. Conflict and rising tension. I carried Luca to gate C17, his head heavy on my shoulder, Bear tucked under his arm. The terminal had thinned to a few sleeping shapes and the low hum of vending machines. The envelope in my pocket felt heavier than paper should. I found the quiet corner the stranger had promised, a row of seats tucked behind a pillar, half lit by an exit sign. I laid Luca down, slipped off my uniform jacket, and folded it under his head like a pillow. He stirred, whispered, "Mommy," then settled again, breathing slow. I sat on the floor beside him, back against the chair, and opened the envelope under the red glow. Inside, a first-class ticket to LaGuardia, 6:05 a.m., seat 2A. A folded note in neat handwriting, asterisk, "Nona Rosa, 412 Mulberry Street, Apt 3B. Tell her Maria sent one last hug," asterisk. And a second, smaller photograph, Luca, as a toddler on the same woman's lap, both laughing at something off camera. At the bottom of the envelope lay a silver Saint medal, St. Christopher, travel worn. I turned it over. Engraved on the back, asterisk, for the boy who still believes strangers can be angels, asterisk. The storm outside eased to a steady rain, but inside me it grew louder. Questions circled like planes in a holding pattern. Who was the man in the overcoat? Why couldn't he take Luca himself? And why me, a stranger with no family left, no reason to play hero? I rubbed the medal between my fingers and felt the old ache of my sister's empty arrival gate 10 years ago. Maybe that was the reason. Footsteps approached, slow, deliberate. I tensed, but it was only a janitor pushing a cart, earbuds in, humming off key. He nodded, moved on. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling we were being watched. I scanned the shadows. Nothing. Just nerves. Luca woke an hour later, confused, searching for Bear. I handed him the toy. We're still at the airport, buddy. But guess what? We're going on an adventure tomorrow. You and me and Bear, to see your grandma. His eyes widened. Nona Rosa? That's the one. He smiled, sleepy but real, then crawled into my lap like it was the most natural thing. Within minutes he was out again. I must have dozed too, because the next thing I knew, dawn light was creeping through the high windows, and a voice crackled over the speakers. Flight 217 to New York, now boarding at gate C-17. My phone showed 5:42 a.m. The storm had broken. Runways were clear. I gathered Luca, still half asleep, and headed for the gate. That's when I saw them, two men in dark jackets near the coffee stand. Eyes scanning faces. One spoke into his sleeve. My stomach dropped. The stranger's words echoed. Asterisk, the people looking for me. Asterisk, I shifted Luca higher on my hip and took the long way around, weaving through early travelers. At security, I flashed my crew badge. Thank God for employee shortcuts. And we sailed through. On the jet bridge, Luca squeezed my hand. Are we flying like birds? Higher than birds, I said, forcing calm into my voice. We boarded first. Seat 2A was wide, the blanket soft. Luca pressed his face to the window as the engines roared. Takeoff pressed us back. The city shrank beneath clouds turning gold with sunrise. For a moment, everything felt safe. Then the flight attendant, a friend from my base, leaned in. Dan, you're not on the manifest. Who's the kid? I opened my mouth, but Luca beat me to it. He's my uncle, he said simply, threading his fingers through mine. She raised an eyebrow, smiled, and moved on. Halfway over Pennsylvania, turbulence hit. The plane bucked. Overhead bins rattled. Luca whimpered, clutching Bear. I wrapped an arm around him. It's just the sky stretching, I whispered. Close your eyes. Count with me. We counted to 10, then 20. The shaking eased. He looked up. You're good at brave. I laughed, surprised. Only when someone smaller needs it. That's when I noticed the man across the aisle, same dark jacket as the pair in the terminal. Newspaper hiding his face. My pulse spiked. I angled my body to block Luca from view. The seatbelt sign dinged off. I unbuckled, lifted Luca, and walked casually to the galley. Need anything? The flight attendant asked. Just stretching, I lied. I slipped into the crew rest curtain, heart hammering, and texted my supervisor from memory. Asterisk, emergency, family matter. Covering a child to NYC. Will explain on ground. Asterisk sent. Minutes later, the captain announced early descent. Clouds parted. Manhattan glittered below. Luca pressed his nose to the glass. That's where Nona lives, right in the heart of it. Wheels touched down smooth. I exhaled for the first time in hours. At baggage claim, I spotted her before she saw us. Nona Rosa. Silver hair in a tight bun, clutching a tiny Italian flag like a lifeline. Luca saw her too. Nona, he yelled, sprinting. She dropped to her knees, arms open, tears already falling. They collided in a tangle of hugs and rapid Italian. I hung back, suddenly the outsider. She looked up, eyes sharp but kind. You are Daniel? I nodded. She stood, took my face in both hands, kissed each cheek. Maria called me from the hospital. She said, Mama, if anything happens, a good man will bring my Luca. Trust the medal. She touched the St. Christopher now hanging from my neck. I hadn't realized I put it on. You kept your promise to a dying mother. That makes you family. Behind us, the airport bustled, but in that small circle, time slowed. Luca tugged my sleeve. Will you visit? Every layover, I said, and meant it. As we walked out into the crisp New York morning, Nona carrying Luca on her hip, I felt the stranger's envelope still in my pocket, lighter now, like it had delivered its weight. I looked back once. No sign of dark jackets, no fedora in the crowd, just travelers hurrying toward new beginnings. Sometimes the storm isn't the weather outside. Sometimes it's the one that rages until a child's hand finds yours and reminds you the sky can clear in ways you never expected. Twist, resolution. I stepped onto the curb at LaGuardia, the morning air sharp with jet fuel and city promise, and watched Nona Rosa buckle Luca into a waiting cab. He waved through the window, Bear's floppy ear pressed to the glass, until the yellow car melted into traffic. My own flight back to Chicago wasn't until evening. I had hours and a heart still racing from the night. I slipped the St. Christopher medal over my head and tucked it beneath my shirt. Its cool metal, a quiet reminder that some moments choose you, not the other way around. I needed coffee, real coffee, not the powdered stuff from the galley. I found a small cafe across from the terminal, ordered an espresso, and sat by the window. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. One line, asterisk. He's safe, thank you. Asterisk, I stared at the screen until it dimmed. M for the man in the overcoat. M for Mafia, maybe. I didn't reply. Some debts are paid in silence. The barista slid a pastry beside my cup. On the house, she said. You look like you carried the world overnight. I laughed, surprised at how true it felt. I ate slowly, letting the city wake around me. Horns, laughter, the low rumble of suitcases on wheels. Ordinary sounds that suddenly felt sacred. By noon I was on the air train to Jamaica Station, planning to kill time in Manhattan before my return leg. I transferred to the subway, found a seat, and closed my eyes for just a moment. When I opened them, an elderly woman was watching me. She wore a faded floral scarf and held a paper bag of groceries. You dropped this, she said, handing me the envelope. I hadn't realized it had slipped from my pocket. Thank you, I murmured. She smiled, eyes crinkling. My grandson used to have a bear like that. One ear always flopped. You keep kind people close, young man. They're rarer than you think. The doors opened. She was gone before I could answer. At Penn Station, I bought a hot pretzel from a vendor and walked south. No destination, just moving. The streets smelled of roasted nuts and rain-washed pavement. I passed a church with doors propped open, organ music drifting out. I don't know why I went in. Maybe the metal against my chest felt warmer. Maybe I needed quiet. I slipped into a back pew. Candles flickered. An old priest lit one more, whispered a prayer, then noticed me. He approached slowly. First time here? I shook my head. Just passing through. He sat beside me. Passing through is still a visit. Want a light one? He offered a thin taper. I did. For Maria. For Luca. For the sister I never got to say goodbye to. The flame caught, steady and small. Some lights, the priest said, are carried by strangers until the lost find their way. He patted my shoulder and left me with the glow. Evening came soft and gold. I caught the crew shuttle back to LaGuardia, badge scanned, uniform crisp again, boarding my flight home. I greeted passengers with the same calm smile I'd worn for years. But tonight it felt different, like it came from somewhere deeper. A little girl in 12C clutched a stuffed rabbit. Her dad looked frazzled. She's scared of takeoff, he whispered. I knelt. Hi, sweetheart. Rabbit and I have a secret. Want to hear it? She nodded. I leaned close. Engines sound big, but they're just the plane saying thank you for trusting it. She giggled. Takeoff was smooth. She waved Rabbit's paw at me as we climbed. Over Ohio, the captain dimmed the cabin lights. I pulled down my jump seat, closed my eyes, and saw Luca's face at the window. Nona's tears, the stranger's scar. I touched the metal. It was warm now, like it had soaked up every heartbeat of the night. We landed in Chicago, under a clear sky. Stars sharp as promises. I walked through the employee lot to my car. Keys cold in my hand. My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. This time a photo. Luca on a fire escape. Nona beside him. Both holding gelato cones. City lights behind them. Underneath, 3 words. Asterisk. He asked about you. Asterisk. I smiled so wide my cheeks hurt. I started the engine, rolled the window down, and let the night air fill the car. Somewhere between the hum of the highway and the memory of a child's hand in mine, I understood the twist I'd been waiting for. The storm hadn't stranded me. It had delivered me. The mafia boss, the dying mother, the canceled flight, they were threads in a tapestry I couldn't see until I stepped back, and the picture wasn't finished. It never is. I still fly that red eye sometimes. I still check gate C-17 on layovers, half expecting to see a small boy with a red backpack. I never do. But every time a scared kid boards, every time a parent looks lost, I remember, kindness isn't a detour. It's the destination we keep finding when we least expect it. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change someone's world. If this story touched your heart, share it, because the next storm is already gathering, and somewhere, a stranger is about to become an angel.